Good evening, all of you beautiful marvels and stranger things. Welcome to another episode of I'd Rather Be Motivated. Episode 40, actually. We're pretty excited about that. Here with myself, Scott O Green, and David Fleming. We are the duders that bring you I'd Rather Be Drawing.com. This is our weekly art check show where we hang out and talk shop, the trials and tribulations of being indie comic creators and figuring out how this all works. So glad you're here with us. If you have any questions, please join in the chat. How's everything going, David?
Oh man, it's going great. The last, I feel like almost 3 episodes that both of us have kind of been in a very like, what am I doing next? Downhill, like kind of we made a really cool big thing, and then it was like we were in the lull of it all. So I feel like I'm kind of finally in the opposite of that. So I'm pretty excited about the next coming weeks.
Yeah, like we talked about last week, we are a little bit on a creative cycle together, I think. And we both mentioned first off when we first got on here, like, this is a good week. This is a better week. I'm feeling better. So it makes sense. When you're not here on I'd Rather Be Drawing's YouTube channel, David, where can we find your work and keep up with analog missions and everything else you have going?
Probably the best place to keep up with me is on my Instagram, and that's Art of Mr. Fleming. And then if you're not an Instagrammer, which I know I found out a lot of people who are more my age kind of are more still Facebook and that kind of thing kind of fans, I'm Mr. David Fleming. And then those two things, you can literally search that up and find me. If you go to my Instagram, this is one of those things we both love this after we kind of found about this, but I have a link tree, which is something that like lets me like just put a bunch of links all in one place, and it sends you to like anything possibly that has anything to do with me and all my creative stuff. So I would check out the Instagram at Art of Mr. Fleming, so you can check out Analog Missions, right? That's the debut, actual printed, nice, beautiful, deluxe edition. I'm just adding that just for fun. Comic, part 1 of 3 of my first story that I have to tell that I feel like is something worth going to print with.
Yeah, it's a kick-ass book. I will verify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So as myself, here on YouTube quite a bit, but also where you can find me is also on Instagram. Like he said, we enjoy that space over there with the link tree and all those goodies. But on Instagram, I'm Mr. Green Draws, mr.greendraws, or on Facebook on I'd Rather Be Drawing's Facebook page. So I'm around, Scott O Green. You can find me. And just wanted to give a quick shout out. I already see Ace and Matthew Enstrom in the chat. What's up, dudes? Nice to see you guys. Got to work on a fun project with Matthew Enstrom this last week. I'll tell you guys about here in a little bit. I say, what do you think, David? We'll just jump right in. We kind of start with progress, problems, and plans as far as the art check. And that usually leads us into the topic, which today our topic is kind of Phase 2 of I'd Rather Be Drawing. Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? How are we going to get there? All of that sort of stuff. So, but we'll start off first things first. Progress, David. What's been your progress since last time we talked?
So I really should be writing this down. Actually, I do have a piece of paper next to me, so I can write this one down this week. But I remember a couple of things that I had as goals for myself. Number one being I was in the middle of a couple of commissions. I'm still actually waiting on the full details on the second part of the commission, but I got all of the first one done. Proud of it. It turned out awesome. It kind of let me relieve a lot of my focus too to get back to the stuff that I'm working on here. And then I also finished coloring a print, and I'm excited to post next week. I also finished and started. Like I just got back to just normal art making. I drew a little illustration from that game that I've been talking about the past couple episodes that I'm stoked to color to and kind of do something fun with. So yeah, I went back to art making last week. So I had a lot of progress in terms of just getting myself back on the horse of that routine, because that's kind of how I am. If it's a routine, then I can't help but do it. As soon as it's not, I kind of find myself making up excuses for not getting myself back into the stuff I know I should do.
Word.
But really, I mean, besides like, I think I had said too was my plan to have a plan. I kind of remember saying that because I remember you laughing at me for that. But
and that's when we're like, okay, then we'll just go big with it. 5-year plan, sucker.
Exactly, and I actually do think that's what sparked this, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do. I made a bit of a plan. I made my 5-year plan, obviously, but like I did also make a bit of like a what am I going to do with myself for the next month, or what do I want to get done for the next month, for in terms of comic stuff, and so that's exciting. But that's pretty much it for me in terms of progress. I'll throw it back over to you and see what you have to talk about.
Yeah, so I finished up coloring on a drawing I did a while back, just a little bit of a watercolor on it, nothing crazy, but I wanted to get something posted on Instagram because I kind of, sorry, I'm umming a lot. I apologize. Let me try to get past that. I did it again. Sorry. So I hadn't had anything really to post. I've been taking a little bit of a break from social media after all the Kickstarter stuff. And I wanted to post something, a little bit too much of a lull. So I colored a thing that worked out well, and that was a gift for somebody else. So another one of those, have a few different lives for your piece of art. So got that posted on Instagram, which felt good getting something there, especially something kind of different from all of the just Kickstarter stuff. So that was a good thing. Also, like I mentioned, Matthew Enstrom, he's in the chat. Go subscribe to his channel. He's a cartoonist who is in the book with myself and 6 other people. Quick math. The Werewolves and Unicorns and Other Mythical Creatures. That's the book that we just kickstarted, and that's where there's 28 creators from around the world. Matthew Enstrom is one of those folks, and the beautiful thing about working on anthologies and meeting people on the internet is when you get to kind of help each other with your different projects. And he has an awesome YouTube idea where he's made a bunch of these. I don't know if he's already made them or if he's making them as he goes, but cheesy films, he calls them, just short films. And they're fun and good cheese, but then he has like a kind of script thing, and he'll have a different artist on each week, and Cheesy Film Fridays. So I got to be the featured guest on this last week, and it's pretty cool because he gives you a script to work off of so that you're interacting with the alien, because you've been lied to by Kirsa the alien, and he's lured us in just to kind of show us one of his cheesy films. So he gives you a loose script and you get to work with it, and I had a little fun with it. I was like, if we're going to be silly, let's go silly. So I got in a collared shirt and a nice tie and got out my nunchucks and, like you do, and had some fun. So that was a lot of fun getting to do that with him. Okay, there were already films made up to. Oh, that's a great idea. So there's like short films he's saying that were already made up until like 2015 that he's made with people. And it sounds like this is kind of a fun way to sort of repurpose that stuff and feature artists and make something interesting and unique on YouTube. And I think he's really got something fun and special there. So go check out Cheesy Film Fridays, and he's got other cool artist content on there as well and everything. So
that's funny. That kind of almost reminds me of like the Mystery Science Theater 3000 or whatever I think that's what it was called, for like the little funny robots that like kind of watch the cheesy films and make fun of them.
Absolutely. It was really cool. It's like that, but even a little bit of a different setup than that. So he really kind of found a unique way to do a spin on that. It's really cool. Like I said, it's a fun way for artists to like feature artists too, and give me a chance to talk about my work, and even supported me with picking up a couple of my comics that he learned about through me doing it. So it's a cool community we got here in the artist community, and where there's a lot of failings or whatnot of social media and all that, it's cool when it centers around wonderful things like art and creation. So, but that was a lot of fun. Along with that, I talked about last time trying to push that boulder uphill, like get momentum going. And while it's definitely not like push it to where now it's rolling downhill and I got a lot of momentum, I feel like I got it to a plateau where now I can breathe and just kind of get it going forward at least. But working on the script for October, my pumpkin-headed Halloween monster character. I don't think it's likely that, because it's the longest format comic that I've worked on so far. It'll be like around 46 pages or so. And I'm at the script stage. I've got characters and all that. And I don't think it'll quite be ready by this Halloween because I want to do some cool stuff with it. But I'm not letting that stop me. I'd rather like just get it all the way done, move on to the next project. And if this is just something that I'm rolling over to like make for an awesome Kickstarter for next Halloween or whatever, so be it. But it's just, this has been on my plate for a while, just kind of off to the side. And I'll work on that next. I'll work on that next. But it feels good to finally kind of be like, nope, that's here in front of me. I got out my old script and really dusted it off, and I've been going through that little by little. But really got a chance this last week to just sit down with it and just X out through some stuff that I'm like, okay, this definitely won't work. Put a big circle around the stuff that I'm like, I really still love this. It's been a long time since I wrote this part, but I think this is going to be great, and giving me a place to run with. So that feels good to kind of get a bit of momentum with that again. At least not feel like I'm, like I said, and I'm beating that metaphor to death, but pushing a boulder uphill. I feel like I've hit some level ground finally with it, and that feels really good. But yeah, that's my progress. How about problems? That's the next one. What do you think?
I would say problems just being like knowing what I need to do next, figuring out exactly how to get myself in the place to do that. Also, like, it's a weird thing, but when I'm home for the summer, sometimes it feels like I have less time. When I go to work, I get up early, I go in, I do my things. On a lot of mornings, I'm done early, and that's why I get to draw. Having the newborn on top of having 4-year-old, their naps don't sync up. I don't get my like evening, or I guess my afternoon draw, then I only get my evening draw. So I had to kind of like figure out reasonable goals to make, because I wanted to make goals that I would actually hit and not goals that I'd be stressed to hit, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that would be like, the biggest problem, if I were to say anything, would just be that. Just be like being realistic with myself about where I need to be, and then finding a way to actually get myself there. I don't know. I really feel like I wasn't full of problems this last week. I have been the past month, but not this past week.
Well, that's a good thing, too. Sometimes with problems is when one ends, And once again, problems is just kind of the title, but it's just hurdles and things like that. It's not always like, oh, I got this huge problem, but he's been teaching in summer school, and that takes a lot of time out of you. But you're mentioning that finally ended this week. Is that right?
That is true.
So that's something to note as well, right? One big hurdle has just fallen by the wayside. So
yeah. Which is actually like back to like, because I always do this and I jump around. That's what I do. But like what I'm doing right now is actually step one. One thing I don't do, because it's like not my style, is when I create a character, I create an illustration of the character, not like a spread of the character, like a character sheet kind of thing. And then I realized if I have 3 books coming up and then maybe some extra stuff, these characters are going to show up a bunch, and they show up in different time frames and all kinds of stuff. And so I was like, I need to sit down and literally like do a character sheet of each character and what they look like in each time period, of like a headshot and then like a full body look sheet for each person. Because I found myself in the last book like redrawing them just because I'd kind of made them up, and then being like, oh shoot, his mask goes this way, not that way, and it actually has this crack there. I just kind of put a crack on it because that's what I do. I just like, oh, there needs to be something in between here. Let me put a crack in the middle of the mask. That looks cool. And so I am taking step 1 here to fix a problem, which is consistency in my like characters between the different books and scenes and stuff like that. So I was a problem fixer last week, not a problem creator.
Nice. I was just starting all kinds of fires, so. So for me this last week, I don't think I had any huge outstanding problems. It's been a problem of blessings, I guess. It's that time of year, especially around here. The nights are longer. It's good weather outside. My buddy moved to town. It was just my birthday, 4th of July, a couple days off. All these are great things to get out and experience the world and all of that. But it has made me, especially with the stage I've been at with, needing to really sit down and spend some hours with script. And because I know that that's always looming, I haven't made myself sit down and do as much drawing stuff, because when I go to do that, I feel guilty I'm not working on the script stuff. So anyway, it's just been hard making time and getting like a schedule when it's like I do want to get out and exercise and experience this stuff. And my wife's going to be getting surgery on her ear this next week, and so we're going to be not doing as much physical stuff for a while. So it's good to get those things in. It's not like a bad problem, but it has just made it to where it's been a bit more difficult for me to really like cut out the time and sort of say, sorry, I'm not going to go do this thing because I've got to get this done. But, you know, we've talked about before where certain times it's good to just sort of be present with what you're going through and where you're at. And instead of just feeling guilty the whole time, just going, you know what, get through birthday and get through 4th of July, then we'll have some downtime. Maybe I'll just enjoy this for a bit. So that's kind of where I've been at. It's still always pushing forward, and it's still always on my mind. And when I'm not making it, and it is a battle between I feel guilty for not doing stuff, and you know what, just enjoy this with your family. So I think just that, but especially like I said, with getting through 4th of July and with getting over this hump a little bit with the script and getting to a place where like now I'm really excited to get back to it again. And that's that feeling I miss of not just I'm thinking about it, no, I need to be working on it, but like I want to get this other stuff done because I want to get back to it. So that's been my biggest problem. It's just, time cutting it out. But that's the biggest thing for me.
Are we just allowed to like put time as a problem every week? Because I think
I guess so. I mean, it does roll down to that a lot, you know, but different aspects of that, I suppose. But yeah, it is just a problem of time. There's a lot of stuff to get done in this life and a lot of things to learn about making comics and 14 different projects that I want to get started right away. But time.
Well, there's your problem. You know, the cardinal rule is you're only allowed to have 13 projects at once, not 14. So.
Oh, damn.
You just got rid of one, you'd be all right, man.
Episode of Jake Parker list something.
Yeah, you must have missed that episode when he said only juggle 13 projects at once.
Right. That's the magic number. Hey, just real quick, I want to the chat from earlier when I was mentioning werewolves and unicorns and other mythical creatures, which is the anthology that Matthew and I are in. Ace asked if I'm going to grow my particular story into something bigger. And then he says, I totally should. And dude, I totally am. Yeah, I want to make an anthology out of it. I like that character, and the premise I think is fairly simple and straightforward and a fun. I think it could be fun for some other artists to dig into and say, you know, pick a region of the world where there's some mythical creatures. So, sorry, let me rewind just a second. My particular story in the book is Fantastic Geographic, and it's about an overzealous nature show host who travels around the world finding different regions' mythical creatures. So Steve Irwin, Jacques Cousteau with mythical creatures. So mine is he went to Ireland and kind of found out, you know, things beyond just leprechauns in the area. And so, I mean, you could do that anywhere in different regions of Africa and different regions of Asia, Europe, Native American culture, like anywhere. And he's a fun character because he's got a huge mustache. And I think he's fairly easy to draw besides that. And so, yeah.
I had a blast drawing him and his mustache.
Yeah, dude. I loved it. And yours and Rao's were friggin' awesome. And I think it's a fun premise where it's fun for the artist, but you can actually have a little bit of a learning thing into it as well. Where it's mythical creatures, so it's obviously not necessarily fact-based, but they are rooted in certain, like they do come from places. There are certain rules about them that you can, you know, use to your advantage for storytelling, but, you know, you might not know about a Kelpie until you read this and go, oh, that sounds cool. I just knew about werewolves and Sasquatches, and but here's something different, you know. So anyway, I would like to do something with that, Ace, and I'll be talking to you about that one. So no worries there. Anyway, so we kind of got through progress and problems. Plans for next week. What do you think, man? What are you trying to do, man?
I'm going to finish this. I'm going to do this for the 3 main sort of characters that I have that I know will be reappearing because of this. Like this, I have this. So far in the book, I've set up 3 timelines. And then I decided as a fun sort of, if you want to call it a trope or whatever you want to call it, way of discerning when you're in a specific timeline is going to be the look of that character. So I don't have to like constantly be like 10 years later, 5 years later, we are now in this, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So their mask or parts of what they wear are going to be a little bit different depending on the time frame you see them in. And so I want to do that. I'm going to do this headshot thing, and then I'm just going to do a page per character of just like some random shots. A fun thing about my world and this thing where they like wear these suits of what the bodysuits and stuff, which I don't want to say too much because like part of the fun story though is learning about that. But you have a different one when you're a kid than when you grow up. Kind of like hit like a certain age and have to like grow out of your thing. And so like as the kids' versions of them, they're all going to be very different. And then the sort of older version of them is just going to have some kind of distinct change or kind of just something to like be like, by the way, now we are looking at future that person, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm having fun kind of getting to design and play with that. And I'm trying to stay rough with them. Not be too exact, but also at the same time, like one of the things about sort of that, and you probably can't even see them because of how tiny my camera is and stuff here, but like I have little dotted lines all the way across so that I'm like thinking about which part of the design changes at which point of the mask. Oh my gosh, I'm like I don't even know if you can see me constantly messing or shaking my computer. I'm like wrestling with where the crap to put my charger cord here because it keeps falling down in front of me.
I thought you were wrestling a python.
I mean, yeah, basically. But anyways,
I'm in the sewers right now.
I'm not in my basement when I do this. I actually have to crawl into my sewers so I don't wake up the house. And sometimes
just gets me in the zone when I'm making comics about end of the world robots.
And then I have to deal with mythical beasts of the sewer.
Mm-hmm.
That will be my contribution to the book. Will be the sewer creatures I wrestle with daily.
Should come up with a Kansas City mythical beast like the Michigan Dogman.
Or like the giant alligator in the sewer kind of thing.
Yeah, the Rat King of New York, you know, stuff like that. Sorry, did you have anything else in plans?
Yeah, I'm gonna finish the cover. I think I am gonna do that. I talked about how like I might want to change the cover. I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish it and just see what it looks like. And because we had that talk about like even if I don't end up using it, it's a nice piece. And then I have some of the promotional things that I just want to like also include. So I'm just gonna go from there with it. But I think that is pretty much it. I'm trying to be smart about this. I don't want to be too crazy. I want to make sure I make plans that will actually happen. So yeah, how about you?
I was just writing them down. I should try to remember the ones you said too, because I want to start writing them down so we can. I've mentioned that before, but if I bring at least this pad back every time we have one, we can be like, okay, that's what I wanted to do for my.
Right. I said a character sheet.
Okay.
And I said cover finished, right?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Those are the two I'm gonna.
It took you a long time to say that.
Oh, was I being long-winded? I'm sorry. Am I on a talk show here?
Oh, I guess. Sorry. Anyway, so I've got that down now. I am trying to, because I have some commissions due from the Kickstarter. I had promised some folks at work, if you buy the book, I'll draw you a picture, and some of them took me up on it. Now I got to draw those, which I'm excited about because I need to practice for commissioning. And I sort of outlined them loosely and kind of, you know, what I want to do and the size and everything. But for next week, I'm going to try to push myself this week. It's not going to be an easy one. I have a couple days off work, but that is centered around taking care of my wife and everything. So I want to be there for her, not being like, hold on, honey, I'm writing right now. You know, I don't want to do that. But I am going to try to see if I can bite off more than I can chew to just kind of push myself a little bit. I'd love to have 2 of those commissions like fully penciled or one done, so pencils and inks. I feel pretty good about things if I got that done. I do want to make, I don't think I'll have it, I might be able to have it done by Wednesday depending on the way everything goes these first couple days of the week. But I haven't made one yet, but I talked to you way back before about read more comics, a kind of segment I want to do, whether on YouTube or on IGTV. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe both. Why not? But where I just kind of pick a couple comics that have just come across my radar and talk about them and that sort of thing. First episode, I want to do Akira and your comic. But I'm thinking, and it's a way too to kind of get people excited about comics and different kinds of comics and how there is something out there for everybody, not just the big two. But to highlight comic shops and what you can get there. Anyway, I want to, because of that, release it on Wednesdays. And I would like to do it consistently because it won't be like a very hard production thing. Just these are a couple of the comics I've got. These are my vibes off of them. These are why they're pretty cool. This is why, this type of person might like it, kind of in and out, but, go to your comic shop sort of a thing. So I'd love to have one of those done, whether I post it on Wednesday or at least get one filmed. That's another one where I need to, just jump in on that one. And then I'm still scripting, I'm still writing that, but like I said, I got to a point where I'm pretty excited about that now because I've got some solid gold in there. But I did, through my process so far, I don't like the ending I had for stuff, so I really had to put a big red X through a decent, the last third or so of where I was going with things. So I would like to keep tightening up what I've got so far, but figure out the overall arc of, okay, where's this going though? Because it just kind of, where it wasn't good. So I'd like to basically script the ending, get that figured out, but just keep grinding on that. So those three things for me: forward progress on my commissions, a video made for Read More Comics, and just keep tightening up that script, but get an ending on it. Because once I get that, then I'll have a solid beginning to end for the book, and then it's just kind of focusing in on it. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I like it.
Me too. I'm getting that feeling back of, I didn't stop making stuff, but it definitely slowed to a crawl.
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels good to feel good. But let's jump into it. Like we talked about before, the way that this kind of came about was David going, I need a plan to make a plan. But it also came from a conversation that David and I had with I'd rather be drawing.com and where we started. And if you look back through some of our old episodes, there is, why I'd rather be drawing.com and why we got into this. But we got thinking with David's analog missions being successful and going on shelves and comic shops and successfully funding, and me being a part of Werewolves and Unicorns and that anthology and that community, which is really kind of ballooning up and everything. We realize that we're no longer just building foundations everywhere. It's not just, okay, let's start a .com, let's start a YouTube channel. We're past phase one for you Marvel folks out there. We definitely feel like we're into a phase two. So it was like, what does that mean for us? Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? How do we kind of get there? I thought it would come really kind of easy, okay, this is where I see it. But it was a little bit harder when I was like, okay, I'm doing this thing, but, what do I really want out of it? It was a little bit tougher. So yeah, that's the idea for this is the 5-year plan for how we kind of broke it down, I think, David, is where do we see for I'd rather be drawing.com. For our art in general and what we're wanting out of it. And then also specifically our comic creation, because we're artists, but we have decided to focus on comics, but we still use our powers for good in places other than just comics. So that's why there's kind of a difference there between website, comics, and then our art in general. So what do you think, David? Where would be a good place to start off?
I listed comic first in my stuff, so if you want to go there, I'm down for that.
Yeah, let's hear it if you don't mind.
Yeah, so comic plans. So this was actually my easiest one because when I started this, on my computer, in my secret folder of you'll never see it, but it exists, is just tons of ideas for me to write. And whenever I get anything that's any kind of idea that I feel like maybe I want to revisit it, I write it down or I make a little folder and stuff. And sometimes it doesn't even get past me making one little Word document, just typing in something stupid like world where kids are the adults or whatever kind of thing. And then a lot of times I'll revisit and see what happens if I go further. And a big thing for me with my stories is what's the message behind the story? What's the actual idea I'm wanting to tell behind the story, and not just what the characters look like or that kind of stuff. And if I don't feel like it can achieve anything good in terms of that, then I usually am just I'll come back to it later. So anyways, Analog Missions has always been one that I kept coming back to. And so it's pretty well developed in terms of the plan for it, which is I want to do these. I just did issue 1. I want to do 1 issue per year, basically, for the next 2 years. So in it'll have been like a every year 1, 2, 3, and then with those other 2 years sitting there and kind of like, what do I do next? I want to do a collected edition of it, and the two ideas I've been throwing around in my head is color it, because I plan to do all the rest of these in this nice black and white style I've been developing. But it'd be cool to color it and then release like a collected, like thick volume where like it's actually in color and you've never seen that before. A side story or like a kind of unrelated but related, like 50-page extra story also. Since each of these is going to be 50 pages, that'll be like 200 pages, and then something around 20 to 30 extra pages. I'm looking to make like a fun, almost 200 to 250 page thick collected anthology of these 3 stories once it's all done.
That's awesome. I love that. And really like put your love of bookmaking into it to make something.
Yeah. So I have hardcover with the question mark because like that would be really cool. But at the same time, like, you know, I've collected some pretty nice, like soft cover, just thick books that feel good. So it's all going to depend on where I'm at and what I think I can fund, because that's a big thing. Like I have to feel like if I try to fund it, I can get there and I can make the book happen, which is like, in the beginning of all this, that was my biggest goal, and I hit that goal with funding the first book pretty low and easy. But like, I want to grow, obviously. So like, where do I go next, and how do I like keep making sure that this grows into a bigger thing? And so that's the plans for the comic itself. At the end of all that, I do have like a place to take it. Like I do want to actually take it further than that. I wrote this story actually to get to number 4. To get past 1, 2, and 3 and get to 4. So but it's like, and 3 can be a finished thing for a while, and maybe I have other stories. Like that's the thing we always talk about. It's like, how much time do I have in my life to tell all the stories I want to tell and not just the one? So like I kind of want to definitely be known as a comic writer who can write good stories and not just doesn't just have one good idea one day and that's the one I follow through with, kind of thing. So that's a pretty big thing for my comic making stuff. And, you know, somewhere along the road in between all that, because I have like a possible client kind of in the shadows that I've been talking with to like just draw his story too. And it'd be cool to be a comic artist that has also kind of just played with other stories. And it's kind of like with your anthology thing, you know, to be in other places besides just the books I'm making myself. So that is it. But I mean, that's a lot, obviously, but I don't know. That is the summary of where I want the next 5 years of just comic making to take me.
I love it. And the thing I love about it is what we've discovered. I think a lot of different artists, what they've talked about their trajectory and how they got where they've gotten, is working on their personal projects. Those are the big things in their portfolio that have drawn attention, that's got them these other bigger things down the road. So I think it's cool to think about that too, that, you know, okay, I'm going to work on this series for the next however many years. But that it's possible could lead to this other thing, working with this other artist for this other company. You never know where that stuff kind of goes. So it is cool to, I don't know, we form our game plan and go, well, let's go forward with it. But knowing that that can change depending on how much we blow up and the world loves us, right?
Right.
Something like that.
Ace just made a comment too of like finding a writer and just doing one half of the comic. That's like kind of what I like. I would love to do a project and like I don't do everything, where I don't do the writing, the lettering, the production, the post-production, the pre-production, like just like a project where I'm just hired on to just like draw pictures and send them to somebody, and then I get to just see that project happen. Like I would kind of love that. So this is like my baby. And I love it being my baby, but I would love to like be a part of a project where it's someone else's vision and I'm just like helping to make that thing happen.
Mm-hmm. Plus the awesome art that comes out of that situation, where certain things need to be your vision. Analog missions, that's your vision for this stuff. But imagine if you do an offshoot, or you just sit down with somebody to talk about analog missions, and they go, you know what would be cool, this other thing, and you're like, yeah, I like that. That's a great offshoot. Take that and run with it, you know?
Yeah.
That would be pretty rad. The other thing I wanted to say when you're talking about collecting those into a bigger edition once it's all said and done, I think that's an awesome idea to make that just beautiful book. And once again, once I get on a grind with somebody, I talk about it a lot, but Ed Piskor of cartoonist kayfabe. This is what I showed last week. My wife got me, which is the collected. He's been doing the X-Men Grand Design, where each part comes in a 2-issue kind of floppy comic. But then after that comes out, they're collected in these bigger, oversized. So this is a regular size comic, and this is the collected edition here. And so it's this oversized thing here, which is pretty cool to see. And then there's extra content in the back. And he still puts in a lot of love with it, with certain different sort of shiny areas, and then the graphics that you put on the inside. But I mention it because it's a cool format, not just like, some people go, okay, to make a beautiful book that's thicker, now I got to make a hardcover. But this is still like a floppy cover, magazine sort of thing, but still stiff, and it still feels like an important, relic, gem, that a collection of works, and I do enjoy that treasury size,
One thing that the sort of manga thing does, which I was like, I kind of steal from that for my aesthetic. That's kind of a part of my thing, is they do like floppy still for the collected, but they make it bigger. Like you said, they oversize it, which I kind of always love that. And
I think that's where he got this sort of thing, because he did it with Hip Hop Family Tree as well as this, and I've got one, and they are really cool. I got the volume 1 on the side there, and you can really still put a lot of bookmaking love into soft cover things. You don't necessarily have to go to that next level of hardcover with stuff. But cool. Is that your comics portion?
Yeah, pretty much. Just to go back to what you're saying, because you're speaking my language there. I want a unique look and a unique feel, and I want, like, that's just always been my thing. Like, if I didn't want this thing to look and feel a specific way, I wouldn't be doing it so independently all on my own, trying to do every little aspect of it. But like, this is a thing where indie comics is awesome because you can make it look whatever the heck you want to make it look like. And so I'm going to do that. Like, I'm not going to waste my time within the indie world making something that is just made by the industry that's already making it. Like, that's what I feel. That's how I feel about indie comics, and what I love about getting a good indie from like a creator that I follow or whatever, is like, you read through it and you're like, yes, that would not have been made if this creator didn't put their heart into that thing. And so like, that's just always been a thing for me too. It's just like making sure that the thing and the product that I make is an actual thing that like wouldn't have been made by that other world. And that's why I'm making it with this. So
that's a cool way to think about it, man. I like it.
All right, your turn.
Okay, so as far as my comics over the next 5 years or so, first off, it has been kind of a plan to this point. I've been sort of putting off tabling or just not seeking it out a whole bunch. One, I did actually, my local one, and it just hasn't worked out because it's a small place, but it's full, so it hasn't worked the past couple of years. And then the next ones, are great big Emerald City, so I need to find more. But anyway, I kind of had this goal where I wanted to not just go anymore with just kind of the art I've been working on, but really go there as a comic creator. So wanted to have several things on the table that look like, okay, this is what I do. So now that I will be getting Werewolves and Unicorns and Other Mythical Creatures. I'll have my Isabel Crane Dying Your Sleep comic, and then Mr. Green's Monster Zine. I think Barcode Marauders, with the one I sold to Matthew Enstrom here recently, I don't think I'm really going to have any more of those to be able to sell from that first run, but that was kind of like my first comic to make a comic and everything. But anyway, so I have these 3 that I'm proud of. They're done. They're table ready. So first things up on the comics thing is I want to sell those comics. I haven't really, for good and bad, I haven't really put a lot of effort towards, okay, let's make money with this thing. I've just been, I work the day job, so money's taken care of. I've been putting effort into what do I want to be doing with my time with art? How do I get better? Still setting up Etsy shops and learning about this other aspect, not ignoring it, but not just going, okay, I can make money with this type of thing. Let's do this. So anyway, now that I've made those comics, once you make the thing, you got to go tell everyone. Make it, then tell everyone. So that's where I'm at with those, is I want to like really push those and sell them and show people, hey, this is what I do. And once again, see what happens from that. That can change your trajectory right there. But next on the docket is October. That's front and center. That's my a character that's been with me since I don't know. It's very near and dear to my heart because it's something. If you look back pretty early on my Instagram, the first time that I drew October, so he's been with me a while, kind of turning around in my brain and mulling it over. So I'm excited to really get that out, and it's kind of feeling like it's one of those things that could grow into this huge world. But I really want to kind of see if I can make this a singular story. If there's an area to leave it as like, okay, this is a volume one, potential for the future, that's easy enough to do without just leaving like a huge open-ended thing where I don't know if I'll be able to make another one soon or not. I really want this to be like a self-contained thing, so when people read it, they're not just going, cool, when do I get the next one? It's going to be a 46-page thing, a little bit of a different format, and hopefully feel like a good, solid, its own thing. So I'm calling it volume one for now, but just kind of saying where that goes. The next thing up is actually what we were talking about sooner, or just a little bit ago. So Fantastic Geographic. It's going to be coming out, my story in this anthology, and part of the agreement with putting our stories in this book is that we weren't going to release it on the internet for free or sell it for print anywhere else for like at least a year sort of a thing. Like they really wanted to live in the space of this book so that we can all sell it and have this special thing, which I'm totally down with. I'm really excited for and everything. So definitely honoring that agreement for sure, and not just necessarily like write a year, be like, cool, now I have this other thing to sell. Not that it's really going to be like in competition or anything like that. It'll be its own thing, but it takes time to make an anthology anyway. And where we talked about being able to do something where you're not having to do it all yourself, that's my specific plan with this one. I will be taking on like being the editor for it, which Mike Emmerich sets the bar pretty damn high. So
Right.
I don't think I could do anything quite like that, but I am going to use a lot of the cues that I picked up from him, but maybe even try to simplify it since it will be not as many artists and a more direct sort of theme that we're all kind of working towards. But have something to where I can make another book without having to make the whole book, and have other people that I like and who do well and I want to highlight, have some fun and be able to have another product that lives in another space. My kind of loose idea with it right now is to be able to do it to where it's like a print on demand on like Amazon or something. I got to research a whole lot of stuff with that, but if we all have books and we're kickstarting stuff, I don't necessarily want to just have another Kickstarter that all of us have to push. When we all have different projects that can live in that space, this can be one where we just make the thing, put it on Amazon to sell, and then like tell the world, hey, there's this thing, it's made, you just have to purchase one. And then I think usually with those, we can also order them at cost at a very discounted rate, so you could still buy some to be able to go sell it at a convention or something like that. So a lot to look into there, but that's my kind of goal with that, is to be able to have another good looking book with other good looking artists, but that I don't necessarily have to make the whole thing myself, and they can live in a different space on the internet and in the world than the stuff that we have now. The next big thing after that is I do want to do a kind of weekly comic thing. And once the editing for that book is wrapped up and October is behind me, and I think I'd have skills built up enough and done enough pages where it would be good timing for me to be able to do a kind of page a week, add to an online thing. Always with the goal for me of going to print eventually. So it would be a format that's print friendly and everything, but do something necessarily without that idea as the end goal, but be able to share it as I do it and be able to kind of, whether it's on Patreon or something like that, but I'm thinking use Barcode Marauders as a good vehicle for that, because it's kind of an adventure, repo agents, different teams going into outer space to reclaim Earth's lost treasures, but they're actually like all overdue library books and everything. So there's a weird twist with it. I think it could work very episodic and very well in that sort of page a week world, but also be something where if it's just a page a week, hopefully by that time it's not something that's like taking up all of my creative time, but just a part of it, but still creating something all the time.
So you're saying like on top of these projects, you want to have like this like project that's just kind of always happening.
Yeah, like, but probably not started. Like, I don't think I'm quite ready for that type of a thing yet to be able to like be working on this, but then, you know, with some time, you know, work on the page for this other project. I
Yeah.
think once I can get like this October book under my belt and the anthology, I'll be in a better place for that. So yeah, ideally while I'm doing that online page a week, you know, you're doing whatever other art stuff, but still hopefully getting another book together. I'm thinking by that time, and this is like, you know, getting into like the 2-3 year mark from now, sort of a thing. I think is working on that and really devoting some time to that because I want it to be good, not just like dash out a page, you know. Because like I said, I do want it to go to print eventually. But I think along with that, or at that point, a good possibility for like an October volume 2, depending how the first one goes and everything. Because I do have some high hopes with that. I don't want to just make a book and put it out there and move on. But you know, October, I see some, you know, stuffed dolls and some different things that way, a board game, a lot of different fun that could be had with that. So that might be good timing to kind of roll into the next brand of that. And then a project down the way where I'm kind of thinking towards the end of the 5-year thing, I want it to be something that's where October is now front and center. I'm hoping in 5 years I can say that my working title for this project is Gravel Road. It's a fantasy blues story sort of a thing. And it's really how I got started on this whole comic venture. But a thing where you don't want to do your epic first. So basically at 5 years, I want to be beginning my epic, you know, and really kind of, I don't know, that's something that is going to incorporate in a lot of loves and a lot of years spent towards getting ready for that project kind of. So once again, we'll see where we are. I feel like I talked a long time, but in the terms of like 5 years and how many comics we're saying, it really doesn't seem like a lot, but you know, it's a lot for me and with where I'm at now with job stuff and all that. So that's kind of my 5-year idea surrounding comics in a very
I do remember
large
Gravel Road. I mean, like that's when you said that, it was like a funny like, oh yeah, the original thing that we gave for ourselves to like write stories, and we both wrote them and never actually ended up really making them.
Yeah. And yeah, that thing was, you know, that was, even at that point, I had the story in my head. I've loved music for a long time, and that's been like a big inspiration for most creative outlets that I've done, and blues music specifically. And it's kind of like an "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" meets Lord of the Rings situation. And I get excited just thinking about it, but it's one of those things that's even hard to tell people outside of what I just said about it, because it's like it just turns into this 30-minute and then this happens and then that happens because years ago this happened, and then, you know, it's this big thing, you know, that's been in my brain for a while, and I gotta make it. So
and now it's actually my turn to talk, and you're still talking about it.
Yeah, that's right, dude. I'm that excited. All right, man. What's the next topic you want to go over? RBD or art in general?
I like moving back to our IRBD because that kind of balances us off. Like let's talk about the thing together now.
Cool.
So do you want me to go then, since we're doing the back and forth these?
I've been yapping my butt off. You go for it.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I'd rather be drawing. Mine's actually really simple too. I thought a lot about these things, but then in my head I'm like, well, yeah, this is it. This is what I want. So I'd rather be drawing. There are 3 things. Obviously, continuing this. This is really good. I really like this collection. Like we're up to 40 episodes. I think that's awesome. It'd be so cool to be at like episode 200 or whatever, you know, like 5 years from now, and just like still doing the art check, still giving people a place to come check it out and hang out, kind of thing, you know. I love that. I love the idea of like all the different people we've met through the show and just like gotten to be a part of their projects or inspire them to do something with their projects. Like I love that. That's one of the, like, I don't know if we really ever set out for this to be a thing that like other people would come to besides for our own art, you know. But I like that that's not what it's about really anymore, and that's what I was thinking about it. Like I'd rather be drawing is not a thing in my mind anymore. That is a promotion for me, but it's a resource for other people to listen to us talk about like our experiences with what we're doing currently in our art, with our first indie book that we made and all that kind of stuff. And then so I thought about that, and this is a thing I've been wanting to do forever. And I don't have any like when this will happen. Like you already have it on your plans that you want the like read these books thing to happen immediately. But I want to start a series, like a straight up how to draw series, being a drawing teacher, like for my full-time job. Like I want to start like a series of like the basics of how to draw, like from the very beginning. Like guy who thinks he can't draw because he just never has, and that kind of series of like this is how you do it, even if you've never done it before, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then just see what that turns into. I love the idea of like I watched and been a part of things where like the YouTube guy who's like, and here's like your hypothetical homework. Like before you watch my next video, go draw 10 circles, something like that. Like I love that. I think it's so cool. And that teacher part of me, I want to bleed more into this professional part of me. Like those two things are pretty separate right now, but I would love to make them one day. The next thing would be just more content in general on the page. You contribute a lot to that, and then we do this, but I feel like I don't contribute too much to it. I started that time-lapse thing. I only got 3 episodes. I don't know, the way I create, it's hard for me to create just content. Like I just make, and then I post what I make, and then I interact with people, and I need to find a way to get like that into my flow. And then the idea of promoting others, like I want that more. It's really cool when we have people on the show, or like when we're able to be like, don't even go to us today, go to, all the people you've been shouting out and all those kind of dudes we've met, like Peter Palmialdi, you keep shouting out Kayfabe and all those other dudes. I love that. That's like a really cool thing because I feel like what YouTube can do for artists is like create like a legitimate community of people you never even met before, but really well, and their art, and that they're worth talking about. Like I love that too. So I see in 5 years what I'd rather be drawing is being more of a place that people go when they want advice and they want to learn about other artists and stuff, and then like not necessarily separate from what we do, but like making that more about that thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's how I feel about our I'd rather be drawing stuff. All right, your turn. And just so you know,
you highlighted a couple things that I don't think I thought about necessarily, but that I really like, and the idea of and that can even be a much more near future thing, whether it's every other week or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, featuring other artists. That's I think it's something I've been wanting to do and get into, but hadn't really thought about it on the 5-year plan. But yeah, that would be really cool if this was another avenue where people go to kind of find out about other artists more directly than just our word of mouth. So yeah, I like that one. Very cool. So for me, I kind of started with like even like just the most simplest near future thing for IRBD, and that's a t-shirt. I think I'd rather be drawing t-shirt would be a great thing because I think a lot of people have that sentiment, especially in our community of whatever you're doing. I'd rather be drawing, and it would just be cool to have a t-shirt for the thing. So designing a couple of those, one with just basic logo, other ones just for fun, a couple different themes, but and then that's something where have that just go back into funding the website and hosting fees and stuff like that. If it's something where it's not a lot of sales, if it ends up being a lot of sales, and we can go from there and use that to make stuff bigger and better. Print, I'd rather be drawing banners for David to use in Kansas City, print them for me to use out here, use it for stuff like that. But t-shirts I think would be cool.
Not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
You did just remind me that like this thing came into my brain when I was listening to a show the other last week of like, and I'd rather be drawing Patreon too or something where with like all of the funds of that goes into like what you just said, help with website hosting and all the other things that we kind of just right now share. So just throwing that idea out there too, because I forgot that I had that thought because it didn't pop back in my head when I was doing this.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. That's another avenue where two could be better than one. It's one Patreon where you're going to pay your $5 or $10, but you are getting content from 2 artists, and 1 month you send out the thing, 1 month I send out the thing. That could be yeah, it could be pretty cool. Pay for everything, and after a certain point, then split, use for art and banners and all that stuff too. I like it, man.
And I don't know. I don't think people need to pay for it, but like I've seen Patreons where like the higher tiers are like, you get to ask a question that we talk about in our next episode, or you get to be a guest, you know, things like that too. Are like a cool, like just avenue of things.
That'd be pretty rad.
But also Matthew Instrom in the chat just said, I want that Rather Be Drawing t-shirt. So there you go. We got at least one customer.
All right, I'm telling you, man, we'll get on it. And I'm learning more with the Photoshop stuff and all that too. So it's actually good avenues for me to be learning how to do all this stuff too, because I do like logo design. I'm not particularly amazing with it, but it has been a lot of fun designing like titles for my books and stuff like that. I've noticed that I've really enjoyed that part. Also, I want to go back because I love the activity in the chats and I appreciate you guys. Ace said when I was talking about October before and kind of being down about exactly when it's going to come out, and you know, it'll be after October or whatever. He says, I know it would be cool to launch it in October, but I think you should just release it when you get it done. People will still be into it. And I think you're right. I think the type of people that would enjoy the book, they're not buying it because it's Halloween season. I think they'd be buying it because they love that sort of thing. So I think you're right, whether it's Christmas or New Year's or wherever. And then it's just something where I already have it. And then as Halloween comes around, I can just really promote to sell more. So thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Okay, so t-shirt. The other thing is, and I don't really know, and it might be the Patreon thing that you just recommended, but I would like to do an us project, you and me, and really be able to have our names on a book. Maybe it's the Patreon thing, but even there, it seems like it would be a cool thing to, I don't know exactly. I don't know what it means. Have a cartoon strip where we're each still doing our own independent cartoon strip, but we release them to, you know, I don't know exactly what that means, but that's something that I'd like to figure out because once again, it's cool to make stuff where you don't necessarily have to make every part of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be cool to see from I'd Rather Be Drawing as well, not just you doing your thing and me doing my thing. But for instance, the anthology that, you know, I'm transparent, I want you in that thing for sure, for Fantastic Geographic. So even just simple stuff like that. But something that really is like, I'd Rather Be Drawing thing by David Fleming and Scott O Green, and really have that as a, you know, we accomplished this together, you know, type of a thing. Right. And along with that, just kind of the idea of loving to see our imprint on multiple books. I wrote down here just how you have it on Analog Missions and getting it on October, putting on Fantastic Geographic. I know that's kind of a general thing, but I think that could lead to some cool stuff. Not necessarily, but if I'd Rather Be Drawing, you know, becomes its own like little kind of indie publisher thing on our scale, and becomes a thing where in shops across the country, whether they're in the Midwest or the West Coast or wherever, they're seeing that logo on cool indie project stuff from maybe not just us, but once again, like if I'm printing through RAW Publishing, but it'll still have an I'd Rather Be Drawing emblem on it, you know, his stuff on our stuff and our stuff on his stuff, and just kind of, you know, that circle of feeding indie comics, I guess, because Image is indie comics, yes, but it's such a high echelon that at this point, if we're really talking about independent comics and you know, that good gutter art stuff, I think it's more street level with us here. So, but it would be cool to see that in a very, I don't know. I know it's kind of a general one, but yeah, just as simple as that. I'd love to see.
I get that. That's like, I agree with you and I disagree with you, but probably in the same way you disagree with yourself of like, indie, like Image is where indie comics go to grow, like, and become awesome comics that started out the same exact way ours did. They're just like the top level of that thing where it got to grow into an awesome thing that the world gets to see.
Mm-hmm.
But then it like becomes sort of a, okay, well now, I mean, it's almost like when you say big 2, you can almost say big 3 now and throw Image in there, and Image is just that third one where you get the good indie stuff that isn't just superheroes and that kind of stuff from.
Absolutely, not even trash talking because of that, but it is what it is, and so you are going to see certain types of books from Image. You're going to see stuff rock that from time to time, but even not superhero books, you can get a little bit of a vibe like, okay, that looks like an Image book, you know?
Right.
nothing wrong with that, but for still some of those just really out there, an artist in the middle of nowhere executing his vision without a bunch of people. I don't know. I think you're going to find really that unique, those gems will be the stuff that maybe you're not able to find at every comic shop. You know, I think that's true indie art. but yeah, right. So get our imprint on a bunch of books.
Also, like that, just to steal it one more time, but like that idea of our imprint on a book by a different person. Like I'd rather be drawing as published or as approved a different artist that we think is awesome too. Like that's kind of a cool idea too.
Yeah, and you know, this is, you know, how we always kind of described it was it might just be us two folks, but it is a comic creating collective. And where in the past when I've been involved in music and art groups and everything, sometimes just going, yeah, anybody who's interested, come join, can be a problematic thing. So it is one of those things where I think if someone's going to fly under the I'd rather be drawing banner, you want to make sure it's like a right fit. But even that, I don't even know what that means. So it's not like we're even like recruiting artists or anything. But
right,
if just through making books and making anthologies with people and just what we're doing here grows with some other artists out and everything, just where that label is expanding and under our umbrella. And like I said, it's just, you know, one label feeds another one when you're like these little indie guys. So, but yeah, and then my other big one was I think it'd be really cool to get to the point by 5 years where I'd rather be drawing is a pretty established thing. Whether it's people come to us because we're giving good recommendations for comics from the comic shops to go to and all that, or the drawing inspiration thing on here, or your art lessons, which would be huge. Like any and all of those aspects. Cartoonist kayfabe, once again, they kind of jump. They're professional cartoonists and they're amazing in what they do. And they've been doing YouTube a lot less than us, and they have a way bigger channel. But what's going on with them is people love what they're doing on their channel so much that they're getting invited to Comic-Cons as Cartoonist Kayfabe to do a panel as their show and put it on. And you know, so it's really not just featuring these artists, but featuring Cartoonist Kayfabe. I would love to see that, for us to be asked, hey, as I'd rather be drawing, will you guys panel? Will you do your show for us, you know, an art lesson or a drawing? You know, I don't know exactly what that looks like at this point, but that does come with all of what we're talking about, you know, ironing out the ways that we can help and create content and find ways to be unique on YouTube and on our I'd rather be drawing.com. But we've already gotten to the point where you and I, when we have been at Comic-Cons and stuff, people walk by and they see that I'd rather be drawing banner and they point at that and go, I've seen that. And I think that's pretty damn cool, especially for us little guys. And if all of our other 5-year plan stuff is going according to plan, then I don't think that would be that strange that in 5 years people are like, you know, we'd love to have I'd rather be drawing, do a panel at Planet Comic-Con or Emerald City.
Ace just said, yeah, totally. We got to get coasters, beers, neon signs, underwear, fire extinguishers. We have to just make tons of swag.
Let's do it, man. And if you'd like to see Ace, our merch guy, in the back of the... very cool, man. So I know this is a longer one, but I'm okay with it because this was fun to talk about. So then the last one that we've left is just kind of like in general, we've talked very specifically about our comic books, very specifically about the website. Now, in general, kind of our art. David?
Yeah, so I literally wrote down one thing, but I mean, it's also a bunch of things. But in just sort of big font, I wrote more cons.
Yeah.
That's always been a thing, and I did it last year, and I had to cut back this year. I think we talked about that in the last episode, that like just having the second kid this year and all that kind of stuff, like leaving for a whole weekend and just leaving my wife alone with both kids when one's not even older than a year. It's just not happening for me this year. And so I do have other cool opportunities that are coming up that are more local and stuff, but like expanding my reach personally, that's who I am. I am the guy who makes most of my connections by literally putting myself in front of people and just being the aggressively nice guy that I am. And so
I love that.
It's like when I did that Lee Summit little tiny con this last month. It was like I remember every time I do a little con where I'm like, you know, it's a couple months between every time I do a show, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forget like how much I love this experience and how much I am just like talking to everybody and getting stoked with people and spreading my book and then spreading their book and then seeing somebody else's thing that I'm like, well, it's not like, you know, and I just like, you could probably even vouch for this. Like I sometimes get so much in someone else's project that I don't even realize it. And I'm like, I'm promoting it and I'm like telling them like, they have this like sense of like, you know, it's all right. And I'm like, no, this is awesome. And you're the coolest freaking person on the planet. I'll freaking do this thing. Like, I love spreading that. And so I want to be more in the con scene to be able to spread that thing too. Cause that's another thing that I was mentioning with like what I'd rather be drawing to be is a thing that spreads that kind of joy and confidence and support and stuff. So yeah.
Community. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like panels and that kind of thing. That'd be super cool to be able to be a part of a panel where I'm able to like give advice to other new people who were where I was 5 years ago or whatever, you know, and that kind of thing is really cool. And I want and would love to be a part of that somehow, in some way.
I think you should even bump it up a notch and, you know, even like, so you want to convention more over the next 5 years. I think a goal of by 5 years for you to be someone who's been asked to come to a show and be a featured person where maybe your, you know, your table is paid for or something like that.
Yeah, that's been an all-time bucket list of mine is be invited as a guest somewhere kind of thing. I kind of have one of those more or less, but like not exactly in a con version with that comic shop thing that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it would definitely be really cool with a con that I've been going to for a few years to be invited back the next year, like as a guest and not just as a person, that kind of thing. Definitely. So you're saying I need to put it on my list that in the next 5 years I will be invited to one of my shows.
Yeah, and I think especially by 5 years, and I think it's not that crazy because you're good at cons. You do meet people. Your art is growing. You are growing in the thing that you're not a print farm. You know what I mean? But you're talented at making sales. But you're also producing quality comics. I don't think it'd be that crazy at all at a place like Planet or something like that. Or, you know, maybe it's not even those. Maybe it's we find an awesome indie one in the Midwest is popping up by then, because I do think the landscape of conventions is changing or whatever. Don't know exactly what it looks like, but more than maybe just a local comic shop, I think it would not be crazy at all. Through your art, I'd rather be drawing all this good stuff. You know, for someone to be like, yeah, we'd love for you to come out and round out our indie creators and make sure that all voices are being represented. So I do feel like that's where some of the convention stuff is going. So it might get smaller and more intimate, but I think it'll be a better, higher echelon of comic stuff. So yeah, man, I think add that to it too. Featured guest invite. First plane ticket, Europe, French.
Plane ticket.
Just Angoulême. That'll be great.
Let's do it. All right, I'm in. I'll add it.
All right, man. So for my art stuff is a little bit different. You've got an awesome day job situation that incorporates in your art and your love of teaching because you're an art teacher. So that's great. I'm still working a day job that I'm in a good place with it right now, where what it's giving me and what I'm putting in, able to do this other art stuff. But it's definitely, I don't want to be there in the next 5 years. I don't want to be there in the next, 5 days, honestly. But so my goal with that is to start focusing on how to make money with the art, where we know that comics aren't necessarily the big money maker for comic artists, but there are other ways that you make your income. And I want to get better at finding that out and being able to balance those things with still making my art. But instead of my day job being for, some other corporation, have my day job be for me. Even if it means that maybe I'm not working on, my comics is like the main source of income, that will always be happening. You still have to make money somehow. but I do want to figure out how to do that based off of my talent and hard work with art. Even if that means like I want to get back on the window painting thing. I really kind of put that off to make a couple books happen. But that's a very viable way that I think I could make good money and enjoy making that money. But also a couple different things where I've got that website, indiegutter.com, where, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's now getting to the point where I just need to sync up with my buddy, the website builder, and really just kind of set out a weekend where we can get together and really start making this happen because, yeah, I'm at that point. So, and I can talk more about that in the future once I really kind of have it off the ground and everything, but I'd love for that to be making money and me just working on that, you know, as my 9 to 5 and a couple other little entrepreneurial type ventures that I have in my head trying to figure out, okay, how can I make the money with art, you know, and with comics and all of this stuff, because, you know, whether it's making posters or t-shirts that you sell all the time at conventions, or you make a digital brush set that sells really well for you online, or you're an art professor or teacher, like there's a few people who make their entire living off just making comics, and I'm very realistic about that. I'm not in this for the money. So, but I do want to use what I've been working on, and this is going towards something where when someone goes, hey, what do you do? You know, now I say I make comics and I'm a frame shop manager, you know. I'm at least putting the art first and everything, but I would love to just say, you know, I'm an artist. You know, I make money doing all these different things, and I creatively make money, not illegally, creatively. But anyway, that was the big thing for me as far as the art stuff goes, is just figuring that aspect out, how I can use the art to get away from the day job, get out of the soul-sucking side of things, you know. I'm realistic about how sometimes even when you get to the point where you are making most of your money that way, it can still be a good idea to have a part-time job at a place that isn't necessarily art-related, just something to, you know, keep steady cash flow happening. But I don't want it to be that thing that feels like that's what I do all week, you know, and then squeeze in some art when I can.
Right.
Yeah. So, man, that's the big one for me. That's my, you know, like I said, I'm not sure if it's exactly all 5-year plan or just where do you see yourself in 5 years or your goals for 5 years. I think it's a little bit of all that because, you know, to make a 5-year plan, I'm not sure how well that works out with, you know, you got to have a trajectory. And I think that's what we're doing. I think we are, you know, like we said before, we're setting up the foundations, but we're past that now. So we are building up on those things. And I think what we're doing is working, and, you know, you learn and adapt and do more in the future, but it seems to be what we wanted to be doing, we're doing. So,
right. Well, we've proved that with the time we can make a thing worth making, and so now it's about like how do we set up more of that time and kind of that, and what do we make next, kind of thing. So, yeah, that's really cool. I forget that thing sometimes. Like, I'm totally rooting for you on that, like figuring out how to make more income and make art a bigger part of what you do, and not just like, and now I'm home from work and now I can make art kind of thing. Because I don't know to say I take that for granted, because I appreciate very much how much extra kind of stuff I get to get done at work, and I know that that's not a thing most people get to do. So like,
yeah, but your job also isn't an easy job. Like, you are able to have those perks sometimes, but I know, you know, being a high school art teacher has a lot of challenges as well, including stuff like summer school. So you do work for it, man, and you've earned your chance to, you know, you went to school and you earned that ability to do what you're doing now, which is awesome. And, you know,
right,
yeah, me and to earn mine. So
me and Rao literally talk about that. Sometimes people are like, "Yo, yeah, I wish I could be an art teacher," and you're like, I didn't just draw this out of a hat. I worked my butt off to get here. Like, I did choose to want to do this thing.
Yeah.
They weren't just like,
kind of fell into this because you make art.
No. Yeah, like, oh, what do I want to do with my life? Well, looks like I drew art teacher. Cool. All right. Like.
Also, Ace in the chats, he said he needs you to give him some cards when he comes up to KC. And he said also, this page that you're working on, David, you should format it so you can make buttons out of those, which is a pretty good idea.
That is actually why I had to redraw the page and why I'm kind of had to go back to square one with it. The cover that I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. The cover that I'm making.
No, this that you're making with all of these characters right now.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Scan this in and do some
Like
kind of
buttons of your characters. Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. Also,
Yeah.
now that he mentions it, especially the kind of like rough and tumble world that you've created with like the fabric and this and that. If even just for like you as a promotion thing, or to have a few, but like making some patches, like embroidered patches, like Boy Scout ones or whatever, like big round ones out of some of those, could be pretty damn cool.
That would be pretty cool. I teased this idea at work. We were joking about it, but like for my book signing, I almost bought a tracksuit to dress up like Apollo for my book signing.
Yeah, you should probably do that.
But I was like, you know what? That's actually hilarious because like one of those things. It's like you talk about like artist bucket list, right? Like getting invited to a con. Actually, I've been crossing a lot off my list lately. You know, like publish my first book, get it printed, do my first successful Kickstarter, get invited to a comic shop, get my book in a comic shop. Like all these things I'm getting to knock off the list. One of those things is someone cosplay as one of my characters. And I was just imagining somebody in like a robot suit, like in a tracksuit with a robot mask on, and how awesome that would be as a cosplay.
That's pretty awesome. Dude, my brother actually approached me and talked about it'd be kind of fun to, if I get October out and I start promoting it and doing stuff and actually get to table at like an Emerald City Comic Con or something like that, make an October cosplay, which would basically be like a Wookiee suit with a big pumpkin head, I think, and just like claws, but like a gray Wookiee suit. I mean, that's kind of in my head what he always looked like.
Right.
And I was like, Tony, I'll just dress you up in that thing. You can go around, because a big monster with a pumpkin head, that'll draw some attention. And people like, what are you from? Or ask questions, and he would just like table 226 or whatever.
Yeah.
So just, make the cosplay happen first. Just hire somebody.
Yeah, that, and you've got that awesome figurine that Jeff guy made for you.
Yeah. My mom's working on a doll thing.
Yeah, you told me about that, the little plush.
Yeah, I really want to, make something happen. It's a character and it's a story that's developing around a character, and it's developed around the character because I was drawn to the character as well as a lot of other people. So it's like, let's exploit that.
Right.
But I think it'd be fun. Man, this was a lot of fun. We've gone over, but good conversation. I think it really kind of forced us to figure some stuff out, and saying it out loud is the first step to kind of making it real. So it's cool to hear we're in sync a bit about where we see some of this stuff going too. And I think some of the stuff we talked about were in tandem. If you're thinking about one side of it, I'm thinking about the other, and both can help propel the other, which is kind of the whole purpose of why
we decide
to do I'd Rather Be Drawing. So once again, even slowly but surely, you got to step back sometimes when you're putting this much effort into something and you're grinding away at it a little bit each day. But when you do step back, you can have a moment and go, you know what, it's working. And like David said, he's crossing a lot of stuff off his bucket list. My goal was to get these books printed, so when I go, these things are happening, and of course we want them to move faster and happen now. We want our 5-year plan to just take 1 year, but it takes a while to draw comics, and it takes a while to get better at it, and to sell them all. So I'd love to hear your guys' 5-year plans, or where you guys see yourself in 5 years, goals for bookmaking. I'd love to see videos about it from all of you guys. So if you need a topic for a YouTube channel thing, for your 100 days of making comics check-in or whatever, I'd love to hear your guys' 5-year plans. I think it's important to have some idea, like we said before, even if it completely changes because Marvel pops up on the side and goes, what do you think about drawing Rocket Raccoon? And you're like, okay, I'll get rid of all this stuff. Let's do that. That's fine, but you got to, pick something to go towards, I feel like. So I'd love to hear any of those, whether they're in our comments or leave links in there to your shows that you make. Do you have any closing remarks, Mr. Fleming?
Just on that remark, I did want to, if you guys ever have questions that you leave in the thing that are bigger than what we talk about on the show, and you leave them in our comments, or you want to like send us messages or whatever, I want to start collecting questions to eventually do like viewer mail. I actually kind of thought like our 50th show might be a cool thing to do, like questions from the audience kind of thing, or some kind of thing. We're 10 episodes away from doing our 50, and I feel like we should do something cool on that one.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe like, so as questions come up on our shows between now and then, whether big or small questions, favorite colors or favorite comics or any of that stuff, or how do you make this or how do you do that, we'd love to answer it. So please.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we give a short answer knowing we're on the show, or we skim through it, but like bigger, I don't know, just start like in the comments or collecting questions or messaging us, and we'll kind of keep bringing this up over the next 9 episodes, because I think that'd be a really cool idea to get you guys involved somehow and kind of that kind of thing. And we're back to the consistency. It's a Sunday, Monday show now, right?
Yep, it happens. But yeah, Sunday, Monday, it's an evening where you're just sitting around anyway, so hang out with us.
Shout out to the chat, everyone who joined us. Saw people come in and out. We had Ace and Matthew with us almost the whole time. I love that. Thanks, Ace, for the support. I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, check out Comic Den. Has a great YouTube channel talking comics, and I love that because I'm a very firm believer that at this point there's a comic out there for everybody, and he highlights some really awesome ones. So check out his channel. That's Ace with the Comic Den. Also, Matthew Enstrom, check out his channel. He's making some cool stuff, like I said, Cheesy Film Fridays, as well as a lot of other good stuff on there too. But good folks making good content out there. So get rid of all of the nasty stuff on social media and search out people who are doing positive stuff and creating and filling the world with some good cheesy fun. So we really thank you guys for being here. Mr. Fleming, when you're not here on I'd Rather Be Drawing's YouTube channel, where can we find your work?
You can find me on my Instagram, Art of Mr. Fleming, and then you can also find me at Mr. David Fleming on Facebook and around the interwebs. Check out my stuff. Check out Analog Missions. If you go to my Instagram, there's also a link to just read a free preview of it, so you can kind of like get the look and the feel and all that kind of that vibe from it before having to commit to it, because it is a very different thing happening. I think that like a lot of times it's hard for me to explain exactly what it is to people. You kind of have to just see it. So go see it. Go read a little 10-page, I can't remember how many exactly pages it is, preview of it. Enjoy it and then buy it, because it is awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, and that reminds me as well, go to I'dRatherBeDrawing.com. There are some free comics up there. Before too long, I'll probably be posting another one up there. But we do have some free comics. There's some short ones, some longer ones if you want to check out things that we've done in the past. Also on Instagram, Mr. Green Draws, mr.greendraws. That's my kind of personal place where you'll find what I'm working on and how to contact me and all of that good stuff. And then, of course, Facebook. And I'd Rather Be Drawing on Facebook. So just, you can find us. We're easy. We're out there. If you need anything, holler at us. If you want
link in bio. That's that. We should just always end the show with that.
Link in bio.
Yeah.
Yep. We got them down there. So thank you folks very much for joining us tonight. It was a fun conversation, but we better get back to making some comics of ourselves.
All right. Pieces.